Every now and then, we all feel the need to get away. We all have our reasons. Dead-end jobs that break our spirits, yet we toll at them every day. Families, loving or not, with demands and expectations tearing away the time when we're supposed to be free. Sometimes it's more complicated. In my case, a girl I'd been in love with for 3 years, and feelings that were supposed to go away, but just wouldn't seem to fade. A fickle cause, but a reason to escape nonetheless. When we talk about the need to get away, some of us just mean a break. A lousy vacation that it ends in a credit card bill that stresses you out even more than whatever you were trying to escape. Some of us dream of something more permanent. A closed space, away from the world, no more jobs, no more people, no more government, no more politicians, no more credit card bills, teachers, GPAs, tenant restrictions, or the fucking hell spawns that are the homeowners associations. Gone. Gone away, nothing but you and all the time you ever wanted. Unfortunately, such a thing is only likely to ever be a dream. Something some lucky sap could wish up by finding a genie in his coffee pot or some other wonderful thing. I wish that was the story that I was about to tell you. If any of you have a credible source of such a thing, I would bid you to let me know. However, in my case, it may already be too late. My permanent getaway, unfortunately, came at the price of compromise. My service to a newly purchased golf course that had been unattended for several years. The fairways so overgrown they were nearly indistinguishable from the surrounding brush. Wildlife frolicking about as nature came to reclaim what was rightfully its own. Well, fuck you, nature. I want to get away. That means lawnmower time. In exchange for pay just barely over minimum wage, with the benefit of free board in what used to be a luxury condo, though now left to the elements since the last owner hit the ditch. This land was about to become my bitch. It wasn't perfect, but as far as a compromise, I really couldn't have asked for anything better. I live alone on the course, with only 3 others passing through to share in the work. The closest town is 15 minutes away by car. The water is a biohazard, but the lights work. In exchange for my wage, room, and privacy, I give the course 8 hours of my time, 5 days of the week. There's more than one catch, of course. Being the only one living at site 24 hours means being on call 24 hours. Be it an emergency or my new boss just wanting to show off his property to a friend or potential investor. For what I consider unfortunate, however, this is a pretty rare occurrence. Then, when the winter comes, the workers and the strange visitors leave, and the course remains my almost perfect getaway. That was until today. It started with a call that woke me up just after 11. I quickly downed a dash of Gatorade and did my best not to sound hungover. Boss informed me there were visitors waiting at the gate. Some die-hard golfing fanboys were apparently mad enough to want to see the place in the dead of winter. I quickly obliged. Throwing on my coat and hurrying to start up my Workman, tiny little 2-cylinder engine thing that was barely strutting about. It has no doors, no roof, no protection from the elements. It's faster than a golf cart, though. I drove down, unlocked the gate, showed our enthusiastic guests our 2 run-down golf carts, then drove back up. Figuring they'd head out in a few hours and I'd lock the gates and once again be left to my seclusion. 3 hours later, I drove down to see their car still parked where I had left it. I thought it was unusual, but not a cause for alarm. Not yet. That came in another 2 hours, when my boss called again, After once again returning to their vehicle and confirming that they were still present to my boss, I was asked to find them and make sure they were all right. Boss had been trying to get a hold of them for a while, apparently. Odds were they had likely just stopped to rest around the 13th hole. That particular area was the highest point of the property, situated where it was nearly hiding behind the mountain that shadowed over the majority of the course. Once you drove into it, you would almost immediately lose cell reception. Even in my workman, the drive to the top was still a long one. The winter had brought a frigid chill to the air, but there was a little snow this year. Instead, what had been yesterday's rain was now a crystal layer of ice washing over the grass. Then there was the fog. It hadn't been too bad at the gate or even around my little condo, but as I followed the course up, the fog grew into a dense cloud that eventually even the beams of my workman could barely breach. This is where I began to feel uneasy. Many people considered the course to be a scary place. The other workers liked to tell ghost stories of things they'd encountered or heard over the years. If you weren't the superstitious type, then you could worry about the wildlife. Lumbering bears were a common sight there. Cougars wouldn't let you see them, but every now and then you'd find their tracks. I peered and gazed anxiously over every bend and curve as my workman trudged along toward the 13th hole, doing my best to keep my ears sharp for the sounds of our guests, or the sound of something moving behind the fog. I would get no such warning, though. Instead, I eventually came across the gate connecting the cart path to the 13th fairway. I pulled the workman onto the frozen grass and gazed ahead as far as the mist would permit. For a moment, I was hopeful that the guests had taken the other route down during my descent, that I would search the area and later find their car gone and the carts back where they belonged at the bottom of the hill. That hope was vanquished by the silhouette of a golf cart, its form emerging meters away from me in the mist, its passengers missing. I stepped out of the workman, calling out into the fog, hoping for a reply. I wasn't sure what had happened. As far as my imagination could go, maybe they somehow all slipped on the ice and hit their heads. All of them. It didn't take long for me to doubt the thought, but that didn't help the storm of anxiety slowly brewing within me. As I marched forward through the mist, I passed the second cart, also empty. No sign of its occupants. I continued walking, yelling out to oblivion until finally I heard the crunching of the ice approaching me. At first, I was relieved, but when my calls remained unanswered, my concern slowly returned. Then, when the crunching grew closer, when I realized this was the sound of 4 feet, not 2, when the figure emerged and I saw what was in the fog with me, my heart suddenly began to pound. I had never actually seen a wolf before today. I once had a fling with a girl who kept a pet dog that was half wolf, and I remember vividly the sheer size of that thing catching me off guard. This, however, was a whole different level of big. I swear I think the thing was actually bigger than the black bears I'd seen lazing about this course in the summer. I stared at it, fighting every instinct screaming at me to run as the thing lowered its head and let loose a low-tempered growl. My eyes moved the beast's snout. Blood. There was blood on its mouth. Fuck. It was then I heard the crunch, the sound of the ice coat breaking on the grass from both my sides, somewhere within the fog. This wolf was not alone. You run, you're dead. That simple thought played in a loop in my mind as I tried to slowly retrace my way to the workman. If I could just turn it on, the engine would scare them away, I thought. The wolf never took its eyes off me, matching every step I took while continuing to snarl that awful sound, engineered by nature to make the meek flee. Through the mist, I could just barely make out his friends approaching. I turned my head over my shoulder, barely just spotting the workman before the beast suddenly charged. I whipped my head back and kicked the monster in its jaw. It yelped back, startled, but within a second its eyes were right back on me. Closer now, just staying out of reach of my foot, but close enough that were I to look away again, in less than a second I would be in its teeth. Our slow dance of moving to my escape resumed, now with its friends right at its back. When a hand behind my back felt the workman, I slowly claimed on, fiddling to get the key in the ignition while maintaining the staring contest of death with this beast of prey. When the engine finally roared, the wolves jumped back, but they didn't run. Each kept their eyes on me as I floored the gas, taking the poor vehicle as fast as it could go. I thought that would be the end of it, but as soon as I took off, the pack cried out in symphony, and the whole took chase. The wolves were faster. I barely lost them in the mist before the figures suddenly darted out towards the workman. The first one ran right up on me to the driver's side. Thinking quickly, I was able to ram the workman into him before he sunk his teeth into my arm. The second was more clever. He jumped onto the back and prepared to nip at my neck from behind. I turned and hit him with the poor fist, knocking him back and causing him to slide a bit with the movement of the workman, but not at all discouraging him. Up ahead, the distraction nearly caused me to drive us into a ditch. I slammed on the brakes. Fortunately, he wasn't ready for this and flew over the hood. I wasted no time gunning it as fast as the little workman could move. The assault continued briefly, but thankfully, the predators eventually fell back. Wolves may be fast, but fortunately not built for a long-distance chase. That's not to say they gave up, however. I heard them chasing me the whole way down, grunting, yapping, snarling. When I finally reached my condo, I dashed out of the workman for the door. The pack charged me one last time. This time I was just quick enough to slam the door on a pair of snapping jaws. That was 2 hours ago. My boss has been informed help is on the way, I'm told. I'm also told because of my remote location, the poor weather and ice covering the roads, it may take a while before I can be assisted. Until then, all I can do is watch them. The door to my condo is basically one big glass window with a lock. 2 huge windows in the living room and a glass sliding door in the bedroom. Every room looks outside. Every room the pack looks in. They've been circling for hours. Blood on all of their coats. They got their fill of the gas all right. But in a brutal animal kingdom, there's no such thing as too much food. For now, all I can do is wait for help. And hope that they don't test the glass. I hope you all enjoyed that. That was definitely fun for me. Hope all of you are doing well. All of you that stick by me and wait patiently for me to post a video. Still during the transition of the move. Still trying to get everything straightened out and put together. But I'm doing videos as often as I can, creating as many as I can. So hopefully, as I stated in the previous video, these things can come by fast and they can come by more frequently. Until then, I hope you're enjoying these videos, and if you like, comment, subscribe, let me know I'm doing a pretty good job and I can keep this thing going for you. Until then, until next time, this has been Harry's Edge.